Welcome to the vlog. Thanks for joining me today, guys. Millian here with you, MILLIAN. Thanks for hanging out with me here on the D-Fire vlog for DominionFire.com. And I know I just did one of these a day or two ago, but had some revelation today. Felt like sharing it with you. Now, it may not be the most earth-shattering things that you have heard, but there's a lot of practical stuff in here that you need to know. And I'm a very practical guy, believe it or not. Even though I like to roll in all my supernatural crazy stuff, still like a lot of cut and dried things. And now, why am I dressed like it? Why do I got a medal? Because I'm gonna tell you. Today, I ran a 10K race. Now, if you know me or if you've met me in person, you know I'm not exactly what you call athletic. Have you met my neck? I mean, seriously, right? So back in February, the wife and I, we signed up, you know, the rib, we signed up for a 10K race because in the year previous we had a chance to run our first 5K. We did a couple of those. And I said, how hard could a 10K be, right? Yeah, I did that today. So I signed up in February and here we are. It's October 24th, somewhere around there, 23rd, 25th, I can't remember the date. 8 months, right? 8 months later. Yeah, you'd think in 8 months I would have done some training of some kind, but I didn't. And I think maybe over the last 3 months I've ran maybe 4 times in training. So needless to say, today was a bit of an undertaking. But I did it. My goal was to finish the race without stopping. That's all I wanted to do. I don't care if I was the last in line. I don't care if I was the caboose of this train. As long as I finished without any kind of walking or stumbling, all I wanted to do was lock a pace in and stay and endure to the end and finish the race. You've heard that somewhere, haven't you? I'll tell you why. So I wanted to do this vlog here because, you know, big man upstairs, the boss, yeah, he's a funny guy. And, you know, I obviously believe that God relates to you how you relate to other people. And, you know, me being kind of the, you know, snarky, sarcastic guy that I am, you know, God likes to dig into me a little too, and it's kind of funny. So I budgeted. I said, okay, at worst case, if I walked an entire 10K, it'll take me like 2 hours. I said, as long as I keep my pace going, I'm thinking like hour 20, hour 30, 90 minutes. Okay, we could work with that. Not the worst thing in the world. So as I'm running along, I have my headphones on. I'm listening to a couple audio sermons, and they're on just different topics and different things. And as I'm running through and listening to these, it's interesting how my physical body is hearing the sermons and kind of processing the information. But my spirit is receiving information from God and getting revelation at the same time. So it's that interesting duality that you have as a spiritual being having that physical experience that you can do both, believe it or not. And that's, you know, you couldn't do spiritual things if you weren't a spiritual being first. So you gotta keep that locked in your mind a lot. So it's interesting, as I'm listening to this, I'm thinking to myself, oh, this is interesting revelation. What shall I do with this? And God's like, you have a vlog, don't you? I'm like, yes, I do. You are correct. God, you're smart. And it was funny because as I'm processing through this, I'm getting all these kind of cool downloads and revelations and things to share with you. Not that, like I said, not that it's anything earth-shattering, but what I'm going to try to do here is paint a picture for you. I'm going to try to tie some of this together to make it make sense for you. So this vlog is probably going to be a little longer than normal, so grab a pen and paper, a drink, hit the pause button, go use the facilities, whatever you got to do. Got my tablet, got my stylus. Yep. And I got a whole bunch of stuff to share with you, so this one's going to be a long one, and let's have some fun here. It's funny too, as I was maybe halfway through the race, it was a 10K, which is 6.2 miles, so not the worst thing in the world, but you know, if you haven't trained for it, it's painful. And as I'm about at mile 4, and I'm getting these revelations, and I'm thinking through them, God's like, yeah, I knew I had you for 90 minutes, knew you weren't going anywhere, so let's talk. So he could be a little sarcastic with me as well, which is great, I love it. And it's funny, he just kind of knew that for 90 minutes he had my undivided attention, and he took advantage of it. He does that. He's cool that way. So, about running a race, here's what's interesting. So I call this one Running God's 10K because, believe it or not, I learned so many different things. And a lot of what we get as revelation, you already know, but sometimes until it gets framed in some kind of a reference, it doesn't fully make sense. You don't really grasp what's going on until you have maybe some other pieces or just somebody states it a different way. And that's really all I'm hoping to do with you today, is to just give you a little something different. So, You know, with running a race, like a 10, I'm just going to use my 10K today as an example. There are some people that are just naturally built for it. Some people naturally athletic, some people just can do this without a problem. Running to them is like second nature. It's like their second skin. They've never been fat a day in their lives, always generally active, telling me about how I need to get in shape. It's like, bro, you've never been fat a day in your life. Please, you know, you don't have my experience. Bottom line. One time when I was running the 5K, the first one I ran, I trained a lot for it. I actually really did train for this one. And I was jogging along and I had a good clip going on. And I'm like, oh yeah, I'm smiling. I'm listening to worship music. My hand, you know, I'm all going off. It was wonderful. And I think to myself, man, I'm doing good up in here. I got this race going on, baby. And then I turn and look to my left. I get like, I was passed by a mom pushing a twin stroller, and she was in her little yoga pants, talking on the phone, drinking a Starbucks, and she just buzzes right by me. I'm like, come on, you're killing me here, man. I thought I had it going on, but I don't have an answer for that. I was past, I think she was pregnant too. She was a pregnant mom pushing a twin stroller, drinking a Starbucks, talking on her phone in her little yoga pants. I can't compete with that. Some things, so here's your lesson. What I'm going to do is I'm going to give you a couple little paragraphs, then I'm going to give you kind of the moral of the story or the lesson here. Lesson here is some things you can do naturally with ease, other things you have to fight for and endure. Obviously for her, this was a easy breezy. For me, I had to fight through this one. And in ministry, that's going to happen. Some people naturally can roll in prophetic. Some people can lay hands every time, well, almost every time. Nobody's 100% as of yet. But you'll see people that are very effective in certain areas of healing. Some people are just naturally in that thing. I don't know what you call it. They're just in that. And you, on the other hand, may have to fight a couple years, laying hands on hundreds of people before you see the same results. So some people are naturally at ease with doing these things. Other people, you have to fight and endure for it. So, lesson number one, fight and endure. Because even though someone else may be able to have a certain ability or be able to do certain things, doesn't mean you can't do it. Just means maybe you have to fight for it. And you'll notice it's kind of like when you work and earn money and you buy your own car or something like that. You sort of appreciate it a little more because you had to work harder for it. So don't be discouraged with that. Fight through it. Now, people don't always feel as though they belong in ministry. Okay, point number two. People don't feel like they belong in ministry. I don't feel like I belonged in this race today, but I did it anyway. I don't really care who liked it and who didn't. I am not an athlete. Never have been. I have struggled with weight my whole, like a consistently 20, 30, 40 pounds overweight depending on the season. Easy. Never been athletic, never been fit, whole life, right? But Fatty finished the race. Yes, I did. And by doing that, I have done more than many people have. There are some very capable, very fit, physically fit people that could easily do that race, just don't feel bothered, just don't want to. So what I take out of that is that don't disqualify yourself. Okay, here's your point. Don't disqualify yourself from ministry because you feel that maybe you don't belong based on somebody else. Okay, just go do it anyway. I'm looking at my tablet. That's why I'm just keeping my notes. I had so much revelation, I actually had to write down notes. Normally with these vlogs, I just kind of, stream of consciousness. But this one, I actually had a whole bunch of stuff I wanted to share with you. So, don't disqualify yourself from ministry because maybe you think you don't belong or there's other people naturally better. Just go do it anyway. Whether they like it or not, just go do it. Because, as I mentioned in the last vlog, God needs the first and perfect version of you. Okay? Just go do it. Doesn't matter. Go do it. Now, I had no real training for this race, as I mentioned. If you followed the previous vlogs, I've been dealing with a jaw injury, which is causing like a TMJ situation. And by running and, bouncing up and down and all this, my inner ears were a lot of the problems. So it's like a vertigo, dizziness kind of thing that's kind of plagued me. Now, fortunately, I've been healing very quickly. I'm almost 100%. I ran today without any problems. I ran a full 10K, wasn't dizzy afterwards. So, thank you, God, for that. Please continue to pray for my healing. It's getting there. Sometimes we got to grind it out. And again, you got to endure the race to the end, right? So this is what we got to do. But the first thing is that in 3 months, 4 times actually training for this, maybe 3 weeks ago was my last run, believe it or not. But there were people who were fit, who were struggling on the 5K part of it. People out of shape like me endured to the end. Again, not that I'm anyone special, but the point I'm trying to make is that not every person or their ability appear as they are on the surface. So it's very easy to look at someone and say, wow, they're great at this, or wow, they're great at that. All right, forget about everyone else, okay? You have to run your race. Each person, here's your note, each person has their own race to run and your own finish line to work on, okay? You really have to stop comparing to everyone else. Now in ministry, wonderful people, a lot of great people. We look up to them. We emulate them to a degree, but we're not them, okay? They have a job, you have a job. Your goal is to find out what your job is and be the best at that job. That's what's needed for you in the kingdom. Now, it doesn't preclude you from everything else or maybe things you want to do. You know, God's a good boss. He knows how to get the best out of his employees. He knows happy employees are good employees, so to speak, if you follow my drift here. So, don't be discouraged with that. But what I'm telling you is find out what you're best at and run with it. No pun intended. With a lot of this stuff, with this race today, the first thing you have to do is to make up your mind to actually enter this race or even attempt it. And this was the big thing for me. I always hated running. My thing was, oh, I don't run, I only run when somebody chases me. Well, I actually got to a point where I said, I want to try this. I want to see if I can do this. So making the decision, you have to finally settle this in your head once and for all. Make the decision. And once you make the decision to get started, you've already started taking out the biggest part of the battle. The last couple times that I ran 5K races, I bungled my way through it. I had to stop, I breathed. I think I might have thrown up once, I don't recall. But after it was over, I made a choice to willingly attempt a 10K, as I'm telling you about today, which was a huge challenge for me. I was very worried that I was going to struggle. So what I had to do was, even though it seemed insurmountable at the time, basically what I did is I set a simple goal. All I wanted to do today in my race is finish without stopping. Whether I was, I don't remember if I was last in the race or I don't know where my positioning fell. I don't care if I was the caboose of this train. All I wanted to do was be in it, don't stop. That's all I wanted. So here's your note. Even if you're the last in the race, even if you are the caboose, remember, you're still in the race when other people aren't. Remember that you at least attempted the race when other people gave up. And that speaks volumes right there. True story. Now, there are some capable people who could have done the full K, who only did the 5K part of it, but they didn't. So some felt that what they did was, well, that's enough. And that's what happens in ministry. This is what I do, that's enough, I don't feel like doing anything else. I'll let my pastor worry about it, right? You see that all the time. Well, the next logical step up for this case with me would be something like a half marathon, which I'm not interested in. No, I just don't have the time for that. I just haven't grown into it yet. I'm lazy, I'm consumed with other things, I spend my time elsewhere. Yeah, I struggle just like you do. Same things that you deal with, I deal with too. We're all in this together, right? Could I do more? Yeah. Do I always do more? Not always, no. But that's the beautiful part of grace, is that God will work with what you have, where you are, and whatever you're willing to offer at that stage of your growth. So just because maybe there's someone more advanced than you doing more things than you, it shouldn't take you out of the race, okay? Take whatever you have and use it. I've heard people say, I don't want to share my faith with anyone because I only know 1 or 2 Bible verses. Well, share the 2 verses you know. Let the Holy Spirit fill in the rest. That's kind of his job. Let him work on that, right? Share what you know. Share the verses you do know. Make the most sense out of them. And just run with it. Again, no pun intended. So, could you do more? Should you do more? Yeah, probably. But growing into things in a proper way is so important. See, I'm not ready to do, there's actually a race that's like a 50-mile endurance run. I'm like, you people are nuts. 50 miles? That's like from here to the next desert city out in Vegas. It's called Pahrump. It's like, first off, I don't want to be there. Number 2, I don't plan on running there either. So, I don't know, maybe one day, but for now, I have to just be the best at where I am. So, next set of notes is, be the best with whatever you have to offer. There is always more. But if you don't stop, you will eventually get to the place where you think you should be. You will. So, remember how this whole thing works. Everything in this kingdom is a progression. So, you have to go line on line, precept on precept. Just keep building. And you'll get where you need to be. See? Oh, I forgot. I even got my medal on. And there was my number in case anybody was interested. You want to do the numerology on it? I already did. Works out to 7. That biblical numerology, gematria stuff, where you... It works out to 7. I think that means something. I'll let you figure that out. Line on line, precept on precept, just keep building, guys. So from the moment... Now, here's where it gets interesting. From the moment that the race started, my mind kept telling me to quit and just start walking, which is exactly what I didn't want to do. It's interesting how your mind does that. Your mind kind of has its own mind. But what you know you should do and what your mind is telling you to do are often two different things. So sometimes you need to tell yourself to shut up. You really do. Because what you really want or need, you can easily convince yourself out of. Well, you know I'm right on that one too. So sometimes your mind, actually all the time, your mind needs to take a back seat to your spirit and basically shut its pie hole because there's work to be done. It doesn't want to give up control. And you know, that's a survival thing that's built into your brain. It tries to expend as little energy as possible. That's why it's so easy to fall into bad habits and not change. That's why it's so easy to sit on the couch and play video games and not actually do anything, because your mind is trying to conserve energy. It's basically what it's built for. But when the mind is in control, as opposed to your spirit being in control, that's why there's the problem, because it's supposed to be your mind obeying your spirit, not your spirit obeying your mind. This is why you have such a hard time getting things done, changing habits, so on and so forth, okay? So, the spirit that God gave you, your perfect spirit now, you're saved, right? That has to be in charge. Now, your mind doesn't want to give up control, and you know part of renewing your mind is getting it obedient to your spirit and the Holy Spirit in you, so on and so forth. An easy way to do this is what I call push for 5 more. So for instance, if you're reading a book, let's say, and you know how you kind of start drifting off, you got to push yourself 5 more pages, 5 more paragraphs, 5 more something. Just give yourself 5 more. That's all I ask of you. So what I was doing is that I was pushing for each mile. In that, as soon as I started the race, my mom's like, "Oh, you're tired. You need to go rest." And I'm like, "Will you shut up? I'm trying to run here." And, I'm trucking along. I'm like, "Okay, I got this. I'm like, wow, I must be halfway through it. And then like 10 minutes later, I come up on the 1 mile mark and I'm like, "Come on. Killing me here, man." Yeah. So I was like, okay, all right, I can do 1 mile. So if I could do 1 mile, I can come 2 miles. I could do this. And then I just kind of blocked it out of my mind, got that whole thing out of there, and just kept doing my next part of it. Got to the 2 mile mark, and I'm like, okay, did 2. Now I can do 3. And as I went through the race, that's basically how I did it. I just kept pushing myself for that little tiny bit more. And then eventually it got to a point where I was about the 5 mile mark, and the full race is like 6.2. So I was like 5 miles, 6 miles, I was in that region. I said, I didn't come this far to stop. I mean, I came this far not to just come this far, let's keep going. So you really have to have a little element of discipline, which helps a great deal. And sometimes you just need to tell yourself to shut up. Believe it or not. So push for 5. That's your lesson on this one, push for 5. Push for a little touch more. When you've hit your limit, push for a little bit more. And eventually keep doing that, line on line, keep building. Remember, it'll get you there. Now, when I prepared for any kind of running, I prepare running on a sidewalk because, I don't know, I'm a civilized guy. I don't like running through trails. I don't like hiking. I don't like nature. Not my thing. Because it's like, oh, look, a nature trail. Oh, rocks, dirt, sand, couple bugs. And then like 10 miles into it, it's like, oh, look, rocks, dirt, sand, bugs, there's a twig. I don't get it. I just don't. That's me. So at least with the sidewalk, there's houses and neighborhoods and stores, and it's like, okay, I'm a city guy, what do you want? But I always prepare by running on a sidewalk. Now, in these kind of races like we did today at this park that we did, the terrain is very different. There's rocks, there's hills, there's inclines, there's rocks with hills with inclines with rocks. There was actually like horse droppings along the way, duck droppings. It was one of those kind of parks. There was a lot of things in the way that you could have stepped in, stepped on, or really hurt yourself with. And you're not always prepared. So the thing is that you don't have to sit there, stop, analyze it, try to come up with a plan. You just have to handle it. And this is how ministry works. You can spend hours in prayer and fasting and practicing prophetic with people or healing training, etc., which is wonderful, by all means. If that works for you, do it. However, you can't prepare for everything spiritually that's going to come at you, because there are some things I guarantee you haven't seen. And that's okay. You'll get there. Keep running the race. Settle it in your head that there's no way to prepare for everything. You can't prepare for every eventuality. Now, if you follow how Jesus did things, if you notice, all kind of weird stuff came up against him. Demons came out at him. He dealt with a lot of interesting situations. And nothing took him by surprise. So keep that in mind. When a situation presented itself, he just dealt with it. So when you're in ministry, you're not going to be able to train and prepare for everything. Now, you can be somewhat prepared. You can be mature in that, which is great. By all means, if it works for you, do it. But your note on this one, settle it in your head that there's no way to prepare for everything. And number 2, just be ready to act. Just handle it. That's all you got to do. Okay. Now, part of what we did today was a very, very big and popular event. So running with a big crowd was very, very tough because it's a lot of jockeying for position. It was getting around people who were walking or taking it easy or getting, I don't want to say people who weren't serious, but people who had maybe a different goal or a different mindset and kind of maneuvering around them. It was very hard in the beginning. Just like ministry, you're going to deal with a lot of people who maybe don't have the kind of the same mindset as you do, or the same drive or ambition, or maybe you're not even at the same place as you. And again, it's okay. After a while, like in this race, you kind of break free from the pack and you can kind of get your pace going. So again, part of enduring the race is getting through the beginning, because the beginning is not exactly easy. There's that stuff you have to deal with, okay? After a while, you break free of the pack, you get your pace going. What your note for this one is, don't get caught up in other people's pace, especially if you have a goal you're trying to reach. And the reason I say that is because you can easily get mired up into somebody else's race, and if you're not built for that, you're going to have some issues, okay? Get away from the pack that is not of the same pace and mindset as you are. Because if not, you're just going to fumble around and you're never going to get anywhere, and this race is going to be so much more painful. Watching other people is a huge mistake too. I really learned that today. I kind of, in the last couple of races, it crossed my mind, but I'd never really thought about it like I did today. And as you're running, you have to run your race. As you're doing this, some people buzz past you, and when you see that, for some reason, you're almost inclined to try to keep up with them and keep up with that pace, and you start moving like a little touch faster, which is letting someone else dictate your pace. And there's a problem there, okay? So some people buzz past you and you feel inclined to maybe step up the pace when it's not the race you're running. Some people start walking and it gets alluring because it's easy to say, well, they're resting, they're taking it easy, and I'm hurt. It's very easy to fall into that either. So it's easy to look ahead at the pack in front of you and wish that you were maybe one of the big leaders or the winners or the champions or whatever. It's easy to look at those struggling behind you and think you're all that. It's true. Stop focusing on where everyone else is, what they're doing, who's better or worse, who's more advanced, who has better revelation, so on and so forth, okay? If you want to be the champion, you need to grow into that, and that's your goal. But here's your note, don't compare yourself to anyone else, and don't run someone else's race. It's not for you. Focus on where you are supposed to be and be the best at it. That's what God wants from me. He wants the sons to manifest into the best that they can be. And this is part of the growth in that, okay? I'm not telling you not to try. I'm not telling you to limit yourself, nothing like that. I'm just telling you that there is a growth process that comes along with a lot of this. And this is part of that journey along the way. Now, after 3 to 4 miles of running, an interesting thing happens. Your body actually starts to lock in. Like, for the first 3 miles as I was doing this today, which is the 5K part of it, my body was hurting, my ankle was killing me today, my hip joints were just aching, lower back starting to hurt. It's just all these different, my lungs were hurting from breathing, I was breathing a little heavy in the beginning, and it was very uncomfortable. But what's really neat is, after you kind of fight through the initial junk, your body starts to lock in, which is really, really weird. I guess the runner, I'm not like a professional runners. Really? Is that a thing? Apparently it is. I guess they call it the zone. You kind of get locked into your zone where everything's almost on an autopilot and it starts to hurt more to stop, And it hurts more to stop than it does to actually keep going. as I was running, I had all these pains, everything was rough, but I had to tell my mind and body, shut up until I'm ready to talk about it. I have something I'm working on here. Quiet. So there was a point where as I was running and I was just feeling all this pain and everything was starting to lock in and it was getting towards the end of the race and I was hurt and I said, if Jesus can endure what he did for hours on end, I think I can probably endure something that I, volunteered and paid for, I could probably endure this for another 20 minutes or so. So never a bad thing to kind of, use Jesus as your, example and your markers for things. He's kind of good that way, But here's your note. You're built to endure, to fight through things, to overcome, even when you are your own worst enemy. But remember, you're built to endure. That's what God wants you to do. You're built to fight through these things. In the beginning, during, after, even when the race is done and you got to recover your body, there's a part after it where you got to pull yourself together. There's growth and there's goals and there's things all along the way, all the different stages, okay? So remember, you're built to endure. So now, as 6 miles was approaching, I made a huge mistake. Excuse me. I looked up at how far I had to go and got completely overwhelmed. Big mistake. The pain locked in at that point. Even more now, I wanted to stop. I was getting frustrated. Bad move at all. For the bulk of the race, what I did was I locked in a very, very slow pace. That's all I wanted to do. And what I did is instead of watching around me who was buzzing past me, who I was not getting consumed with that. All I did is I looked down, followed my shoes, I glanced up every once in a while to make sure I was going the right way, not bumping anybody, but I focused on where I was, what I was doing, how I was handling it, and just did what I had to do, right? I looked up at how far I had to go. So it was about the end of the race. There was a little marker that said 5 miles. So I was like another mile, 1.2 miles to go. And I'm like, okay, it was hurting at this point. What you got to remember is when you look up and see the large distance up ahead of you, it's very easy to get discouraged, very easy to get overwhelmed, and you start thinking, man, how am I going to take this on? How am I going to handle it? How are we going to get there? How am I going to fight through this? Okay, and you psych yourself out. You don't swallow a steak whole. If you have a beautiful steak dinner, you don't cram the whole thing down in one shot. What do? You cut off little bite-sized pieces. You enjoy the pieces as you're consuming them. You enjoy the flavor, you enjoy the time, you relax, enjoy where you're at. Okay, it's not always going to be there. It will progress, I promise you. But you have to take that kind of enjoyment in where you are at the moment. So never look past what you have in front of you or who you have in front of you. Especially if you're in healing ministry or you're doing a prophetic word, never look past the person in front of you. Every spiritual case that you deal with is different. And never look beyond that person. Because I've seen, and I'm guilty of this myself, where you say, someone's got a bad back. I get bad backs healed all the time. And then it's like, okay, I'll get this guy healed, I'll move on to this guy. And you totally look past that person. Next thing you know, nothing's happening. It's like, uh-oh, wait a second, something's wrong here. And then it starts a whole thing. So never look beyond anything that's in front of you. Keep your pace, keep enduring. Don't look beyond where you are. Now, there's a finish line. Okay, so you have to just settle this in your head. Yes, there is a finish line set somewhere. We are going to reach it. Yes, I will complete this race. The end of this race is coming either way. Any way you slice it, there is a finish line. So, your note for this one, stay focused, get the job done, and just don't stop. So I finished the race. 6.2 miles. 1 hour, 31 minutes, 15 seconds. Sorry, I'm adjusting my camera. Pardon my unprofessionalism. I was not strong. I was not in the lead. Not the winner. But all I wanted to endure to the end. That's all I wanted. I pushed myself to a place that I'd never gone before, to do something I've never done before either. Not because I was a great athlete, ever. Not because I have any special skills or abilities or anything like that. Not because I was anyone special. Only because I decided to do it. I set my pace, made a goal, and kept myself in check. And for ministry, it's the same thing. There is a finish line coming. There's all these things I'm talking to you about. You got to keep yourself in check, and you just have to keep going. Set a couple goals, stay focused, a little bit of discipline. It all goes a long way. So as I'm coming to the end of this, I'm going to leave you with a couple things just to think about and to research. I'm going to give you a couple... I think I just hit puberty. I'm going to give you a couple Bible verses to look up. Now, I'm not going to tell you, I'm not going to read them to you. Do your own homework. I'm just going to point you there. You go figure it out, okay? Number 1, just be willing. You got 2 Timothy 2:20. It's about a vessel that's ready for good work, okay? Just be willing. Be a vessel. Be willing to go do the work. Number 2, be ready to go. Several verses. Now go find these yourself. But God says that He is the I am. Now what's so important about that is I am is right now the present tense. So God is the God of right now. So when does He want you to do stuff? Right now. When does He want people saved? Right now. When does He want people healed? Right now. That's why the I am. It's always right now. Okay? Have some kind of plan to do what you're going to do for ministry. Proverbs 16:3 is one of my favorites. I forget the exact wording of it, but you present this to the Lord and your blah blah blah. Bottom line, I've read it in several verses. They're all jumbling together in my head, but I'm going to paraphrase it for you. God blesses a plan. He really does. I've proved it several times when I brought stuff to Him. It's neat how He does it. Elements of discipline. I'm going to give you 1 Timothy 4:7. 1 Corinthians 9:24 and 2 Timothy 1:7. There's plenty more. Go find them yourself. Go search, man. Be a Berean. Go check it out and see what if I'm telling you is the truth. Okay? There's a few of them for you. And endure to the end. Matthew 24:13, 1 Corinthians 15:58 about your labors not in vain. Hebrews 10:36 for the need of endurance. So good stuff there. Go check it out. What I'm going to leave you with today, guys, is that all of these things that I'm pointing out to you, all these little things, will take you a long way. And God gave me this revelation as I was running because I know this stuff. I've heard it many times, but it's just when you have a different frame of reference that sometimes it starts to click. And hopefully I've helped you with that today and given you some stuff to work with. Go run the race. Be strong. And don't stop. And if every single believer would do that, it's going to turn out really nice. Take my word for it. So, thanks for joining me on the vlog today. Thanks for enduring through this vlog. I know it was probably the longest one we've done, but I was just, as soon as I was done the race, I got home and I grabbed my tablet and I started writing down notes. I was very compelled to get this out to you quickly and right away. I guess somebody out there who sees this is going to need to see it when they see it. And if that's you, send me an email, dominionfirechurch@gmail.com. I'd love to hear your story. But here on YouTube, there's a subscribe button there. I don't know. There's a subscribe button somewhere, so sorry if I don't know where it is. But please subscribe, please thumbs up, and as more revelation comes in, I'll be happy to share it with you. And also you can visit us anytime, excuse me, at dominionfire.com. That's from the race, actually, that whole throat thing. That's from just breathing heavily. My throat's a little sore. dominionfire.com, on Twitter, @healingminister, facebook.com/dominionfire. Feel free to connect with any of those media outlets and catch up with me, send me your messages. Comments, good, bad, or indifferent, even if you don't like me. I don't care if you like me or not. But love to hear from you. So this is Million for Dominion Fire, Las Vegas, Nevada. Million out. See you guys soon.